The Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you today by Draft. Looking for the best fantasy sports site on the planet? Sign up with Draft today. For a limited time only, our listeners will receive $3 matching their first deposit of at least $10. Use promo code DTR or visit draft.com/DTR to sign up now. Draft. Fantasy for the people. Now enjoy the show.
Caught by Brandon Cooks. Shoot your arrows. Cooper Kupp plucks it out of the air and gives the Rams the lead. Robert Wood, touchdown. LA. Goff goes crashing into the end zone. Aaron Donald almost beat the football there. Corey Littleton, have yourself a day. Picked off. Marcus Peters coming off the edge, and Ryan will be wrapped up by Clay Matthews. Everett in stride. Wow!
Franklin Myers gets his hand down there.
Weddle got a hand on it. Did he pick it? He did! Racing down the sideline is Aqib Talib. Gurley for MVP! Touchdown LA! Picked off by John Johnson. Well, it's Dante Fowler who is able to get to Breeze. Greg Zuerlein sends the Rams to the Super Bowl! LA will play for the Lombardi!
Welcome back, guys, to another Downtown Rams podcast. It's episode 249. I'm your host, Jake Ellenbogen. Joining me, as always, is Alexis Kraft. You can follow me at JKBogenDTR, and you can follow Alexis Kraft at the Alexis Kraft on Twitter. We never mentioned that, and I feel like it's time that we mention that. Go follow Alexis. She's a great follow. We have a lot to talk about, and I think you guys know that just tuning in. I mean, a lot to talk about. Rams 49ers did not go down like I expected. It went down more like Alexis expected, but I think it was a lot worse than Alexis expected. So, we're going to talk about this, and it's not going to be good. Again, a lot to talk about. Offense, head coaching, what's going on with the season. It's definitely going to be interesting, but I'll give Alexis the floor because she nailed it.
Yeah, guys. So I was very impassioned on the last podcast when we did the 49ers Rams preview episode. I've been pretty passionate. I think it's kind of been building up at this point because I've been extremely frustrated with what I've been seeing, even from week one. And everybody wanted to call me crazy. Everyone wanted to say I was being negative, and that I shouldn't worry because it's only week one. It's only week 3. It's only week 4. Well, guess what, guys? Now it's week 6, and we are a 3-3 team, and we are third in our division. What happens early in the season is you can't just play poorly and be like, it'll get better without a team taking accountability and actively trying to get better. Again, we're not in the practices. I don't know what's going on, but what I'm thinking and what a lot of people are thinking is that there's no accountability on this Rams team. I'm tired of watching press conferences after these games where people are like, we just have to be better. We just got to keep our head up. Well, guess what? Everything is not turning out okay. My number one concern and what I've been screaming about since week 1 is this offensive line. This offensive line is the worst in the NFL right now. This offensive line collapses in 2 seconds and doesn't give Goff any time to get the ball off. This offensive line is the reason why the Rams most likely at this point are not a playoff team, okay? And we just lost Joseph Noteboom yesterday, which if you recall last episode, I was praying that we did not lose any of the starting offensive line because as bad as they are, we have no depth on this team. There is one guy on this team, and that is the rookie David Edwards, who I feel comfortable starting in the NFL for that backup offensive line. I mean, it is just not a good situation. So I was not optimistic going into the game. I was as Jake said, my prediction is that we were going to lose a close one to the 49ers. And guess what? It really wasn't that close. We got outplayed. We underperformed on every single side of the ball. There is not one. The only bright light that you can remotely say right now that there was from that game is at least Aaron Donald still got it. Because other than that, I guess Marcus Peters had an interception too. which is obviously one of the two positives, because other than that, guys, it was just not fun. And it's funny because I'm on social media now, and during and after that game, and it seems like people are starting to wake up. So if you want to be mad at people like me who have been screaming about this since week one, then I don't know what you're watching, because everything that we've been saying has come to light. It's not acceptable. If you're a Rams fan and you're not worried right now, then I wish I had your optimism, and you're not being realistic. I mean, Jake, let's get into this offensive line, because this is the number one reason that we that we didn't win the game. I mean, there's a lot of reasons we didn't win the game, but this is something that we've been talking about. And I made a post on our Instagram asking people to leave their thoughts about the game, like any comments or statements. And guys, I have 40 plus comments on there about this offensive line. I don't have time to go through them all, but Jake, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so, I think you're definitely right about the offensive line. I think it's, a little frustrating how, we forget that, when the Rams had Joseph Noteboom in, number one run defense in the league or not, they were running down their throat. Malcolm Brown started off first drive, 5 carries, 40 yards, and then the next drive, Darrell Henderson gets unleashed, and he runs for 3 carries for 40 yards, and really that just it looked great, but the end of that drive at the goal line, running the same exact run play back-to-back killed them. If they settled for a field goal, which ironically I was actually okay with them going for it, I just would have liked to see more creativity. If they settled for a field goal, though, ironically, what lost them the game in Seattle, this was probably something that would have changed everything this time around versus the 49ers. We've been begging for the Rams to score in the first quarter and score in the first drive, and they did it. Robert Woods, rushing touchdown, they did it. But guess what? This team, they've shown it takes them a while to get going, and when they do, that's when they finally are able to come away with the victory, or lose it in the closing seconds. They're in every game. This is the one game they start off strong, and it was like there was nothing going for them after that. And I hate saying this team, because guess what? I'm going to give a game ball to the defense. That's right. Defense. You gave up 20 points. That's it. You give up 20 points. Here's the fascinating thing here. Jared Goff threw 78 yards. The offense was 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. They didn't convert a third down, and they didn't convert a fourth down. They attempted 9 third downs and 4 fourth downs, and they didn't convert one of them. First off, I've never seen that before in a game. Second,
it's pathetic.
It just puts the defense right back on the field with no momentum. Marcus Peters comes down with the interception in the end zone, and I know people are going to say, well, that's the easiest thing ever. God, let's imagine giving Marcus Peters credit for once. God, he's the most trashed Ram now. It's unbelievable. He had a good game, by the way. So he gets the interception. The Rams get 0 points off turnovers, and they showed that with that interception. Did literally nothing. Oh, how about Corey Littleton, who picks up the Aaron Donald forced fumble and runs it and then pitches it back to Nickel Roby-Coleman. And I heard people, basically saying, why did he do that? I'll tell you why. Because he knew, as well as the rest of the defense, that the Rams offense was incapable of scoring. And this doesn't fall on the entire offense. These receivers are open. Okay, when you don't have time to throw, you can't allow those route concepts to develop. But this also doesn't mean that it's not in Jared Goff. Because when you have time to throw and you're throwing at the receiver's legs, or if you're throwing way over their head, or you're missing a wide open Gerald Everett down the sideline, that's on you. And so, I want to nip this in the bud right now. If you think the offensive line is entirely the issue, you are wrong, and you're covering up for Jared Goff. And we're going to get to that, but I have to point that out because I'm getting tired of hearing that.
Well, yeah, the offensive line is number one, but Jared Goff is number two. There were so many plays during that game where he had plenty of time and he threw at receivers' feet He threw out of bounds. He threw away from the receiver. He, again, tried to shove the ball to Cooper Kupp when there were other open receivers. I mean, things that, like we said and pointed out week 2, that he is not corrected by week 6. I mean, listen, I get it. If your offensive line is collapsing and you are under pressure and you have a half a second to make a decision and you make the wrong one, but there was a lot of times where he had 5 seconds, he had 6 seconds, he had a lot of time standing there, was able to see his receivers, had open receivers, and literally threw at their feet. I mean, that is not okay, guys. I mean, for a quarterback that we just paid all this money for to be missing wide open receivers, and not only missing them, but throwing at the ground or at their feet or throwing short, like, that is just not okay. I mean, Jared Goff has been something that I started out the season, and Jake, we both started out the season acknowledging that he had not been playing well, but we were hoping that it was rust and he could get rid of it. It's week 6 now, guys. It's not rust anymore. I don't know what's going on. I have to assume that it's mental because we've seen what Jared Goff can do. But granted, we've only seen what Jared Goff can really do when he's been protected. So now we're starting to see a Jared Goff with a lot of pressure on him. And listen, very few quarterbacks thrive under pressure, okay? Very few can handle an entire defensive line charging at them with only 2 seconds to throw the ball. Jared is no different. He's not handling it well. But even, without that, when he doesn't have that pressure, he's still not playing well either. And it's so frustrating to watch. And again, not just coming from my perspective or Jake's perspective, from what everybody else has been saying on our social media and Rams Twitter and Instagram in general. Everybody else is seeing it too, guys. This is not something that we're going out on a limb saying to say that Jared Goff is struggling, and it's costing this team, and it's very frustrating. And it's something that if we even want a chance at this point to make the playoffs, it's probably going to be a wild card spot. And if we want that chance, we got to get it together on multiple things. I mean, the offensive line, unfortunately, right now, I don't see how to fix it because I truly just think it's the guys we have in there. I mean, I don't know what's happening. It's just nothing, we lost a starter this week. We lost Joseph Noteboom. He tore his ACL and his MCL. He's going to be out the rest of the season, probably for a while. The only thing that I can even think of to help fix this offensive line right now is trading for Trent Williams. And honestly, at this point, we would have to give up so much for Trent Williams to even get him on the team. And we have a very slim chance of making the playoffs now with Seattle and the 49ers in our division. So do we really want to give up all those picks or all that talent that we would probably have to give up for Trent and then not even make the playoffs? That's something to think about as well. But the offensive line, I think it is what it is. I don't know if there's much that we can do about it. Jared Goff has got to get it together. And again, I'm not I don't know what's going on with him. I assume it's all mental, but it's got to be fixed.
Yeah, it does. It has to be fixed. This is still, a team I think is going to, as crazy as it sounds, I think they're going to fix it, and I think they can win a Super Bowl. Right now, do they look like that? No, but it's so early in the season, and they're in the same. It's really funny how people were touting like the Cowboys, Rams, and Packers as the top NFC teams, and I absolutely was doing that, and I do believe talent-wise and fully healthy, the Rams are the best team in the NFC. But I'll say this right now: let's not forget. The Rams did beat Carolina. Carolina has proven to be a formidable opponent. They did beat the Saints, who lead the NFC 5-1, and if the season ended today, would have home field advantage once again in the playoffs. Okay, so and they did go to Cleveland and beat the Browns. And I'm not crowning the Browns. I don't think the Browns are that great. But, going to Cleveland, playing that primetime game, they've already had that dose of primetime. They literally came a missed field goal away, a field goal that Zerline hits 99.8% of the time, and they came a missed field goal away from beating the Seahawks. Tampa Bay, they showed fight. They absolutely played like crap on the defensive side. Their offense put up 40 points, and they still had a chance at the end, which was insane. And, this game, as crazy as this game was, down 20-7, here's my biggest issue, okay? My biggest issue with this game is people aren't looking at the fact that it was more about the Rams beating up themselves than the 49ers. I, myself, was not impressed with the 49ers. I was not. I thought that their front four was as great as we thought, so that didn't impress me because I already knew that it was that good, right? And if the offense is that bad, then where's your benchmark? But anyway, the front four was incredible. But Jimmy Garoppolo is an ordinary quarterback to me. I think Jacoby Brissett's better than him, and I can definitely see why the Patriots trade him away. I don't think he's got any bit extra to his game. I think Nick Mullins did a better job of moving the ball down the field. And now, you talk about Garoppolo having Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and Dante Pettis, and that running back group. I'm sorry, Jimmy Garoppolo didn't look that great. And the defense played stellar. I thought the defense was great. Again, only giving up 20 points. The field position was awful. They took over on downs 4 times, keep in mind. The Rams failed 4 times on 4th down, so that means that they took over in rough field position, and they held the 49ers to 20 points. Again, I think the defense played well, but I also think that Jimmy Garoppolo was very ordinary. The running backs, this is a team that averaged 200 yards on the ground a game, and the Rams held them under 100 yards. That's a win by the defense. Defense generated 2 turnovers. That's a win by the defense. It was really, again, we look back at the offense. And so here's the thing. As much as I want to say bench Goff, because I really want to say bench Goff, I really do. Goff has not been the same since the Chiefs game. I've said that, okay, and I've continued to say it. Now, that doesn't mean he can't make plays here and there, but the consistency that makes Jared Goff what he is, what made him the number 1 overall pick, what made him the franchise quarterback, what the Rams paid for, is not there right now. And if you think it is, you're kidding yourself. If you're blaming the offensive line every which way, you're wrong. It's not just the offensive line, because again, when he got time, he's making mistakes. He's not making the correct throws, and he's staring down his targets. He's like a statue in the pocket. And here's the thing that really, really bothers me. Okay, Goff. We're getting annoyed because Goff is capable. We're not saying Goff isn't good. Okay, people get really offended over, $110 million quarterback that isn't related to them when you say anything bad about them. Bottom line is Jared Goff isn't playing like his contract, right? His contract told you otherwise. But he is not playing like that, and that's not me being, ridiculous. That's just me telling you how it is. This is a Super Bowl team. I've been seeing a lot of, because I did mention the idea, no one was defending Keenum like this with the Rams. No one was defending Foles, Bradford, Austin Davis, Sean Hill, Sean Mannion, any of those quarterbacks. No one was ever defending them the way Jared Goff gets defended when he plays poorly. And that's not me hating on Goff. That's just me telling you how it is. So when I say that, and then, your response is, well, Goff led them to a Super Bowl, I want to ask you one thing. If Sam Bradford, Nick Foles, Case Keenum, Austin Davis, maybe not Sean Mannion, Sean Hill, if any of them had all those weapons, Cooks, Woods, Kupp, Gurley, Malcolm Brown, Gerald Everett, Tyler Higbee, and then this defense, would they have led them to a Super Bowl? You don't know. But the thing here is that Goff has all of these weapons, and I'm sorry, but 78 yards passing is inexcusable. It's unacceptable. And again, I don't care how bad the offensive line is. You pay a quarterback to be better than what's around him. Look at what Tom Brady does. Tom Brady turns Brandon Bolden into a fantasy stud, right? Aaron Rodgers, who is he playing? The game's going on right now while we're recording this. Aaron Rodgers just threw a touchdown to Alan Lazard. I haven't seen him since I was at the Senior Bowl. Okay? Like, you have to be able to make plays. If you are that guy, you have to be able to make plays when things are not great around you. I mean, Kyler Murray.
That's a good point.
He has literally been running for his life all season. He's a rookie. So not only is it ridiculously hard to play the quarterback position in general, but he's a rookie. So now just think about how hard it is from a preparation standpoint. Okay? And now he has to be the franchise face. So they already traded. They're like, all right, there's a lot of pressure on this kid. They've already traded away a first-round quarterback in Josh Rosen to be like, hey, you're the guy. And guess what? It doesn't matter how bad the offensive line is. And I don't care, what you say about him being a running quarterback. The dude has pocket presence. He doesn't give up on a play. I mean, he has been stellar. I don't think people are realizing right now. What I'm saying right now is Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray are the best cornerbacks in the NFC West right now, and it's not close. They are leaps and bounds ahead of where Goff and Garoppolo are right now. And that's not to say Goff can't get better, and I do believe he will. I think, going up against the Atlanta Falcons seems to fix everything. So this is why I don't believe the Rams will end up the Rams wouldn't bench Goff. I'm not saying they would. I'm saying I would give him one more week because he's going up against the Falcons secondary that just continues to give up, career highs to Jacoby Brissett and Kyler Murray. And I mean, I wouldn't bench him this week. But I'm saying he has not been the same. It wouldn't necessarily be you're done with him. But could we honestly, can you honestly say if Blake Bortles played on Sunday that it ends up getting worse than 20-7, that he ends up with 78 yards or fewer? Can you honestly say that with all those weapons? And again, offensive line was atrocious after Noteboom got hurt. But when he was healthy, when he was in, the offensive line continued to show strides of getting better this year. It's been gradual, but they were getting better. This injury sucks, and they're going to have to figure out a way to fix it. And I like what you said about Trent Williams because guess what? There's not much out there.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, as much as I would love to have Trent Williams on the Rams, the amount of, talent and picks that we would have to give up for Trent Williams and the odds that we have of making the playoff, it's not worth it to me. I would hate to give up talent and picks to get Trent Williams and then we don't even make the playoffs. That would, not be something that I would be a fan of. And I think you bring up a really good point about Jared Goff in relation to other quarterbacks. I think you were spot on. Listen, good quarterbacks make everybody else around them better, right? Good quarterbacks are able to bring out the talent and bring out greatness in everybody else. Mediocre quarterbacks have to rely on talent around them. They need everybody else to make them better. That's what we're seeing in Jared Goff. Listen, I like Jared Goff. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a lot better of a player than he's playing right now, but he has to turn it around. He cannot continue to play like this and expect to remain a starting NFL quarterback. It's just not going to happen. You bring up a good point in Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's does not have a great offensive line at all. Arguably about the same, amount of talent as ours, maybe a little less beat up, but he's, like you said, been running for his life, and he manages, to get it done and to throw to guys. And look at his talent. He doesn't really have anybody great that he's throwing to aside from, Larry Fitzgerald, arguably. I don't even know who else, he's throwing to. So nowhere near the talent, of the Rams wide receivers. So it's really unacceptable. I think it's really sad that we are at this point. I think, as people wanted to scream the first 5 weeks about, us being worried, particularly me, they wanted to be mad at me for, calling out people, but see, here's the thing, guys, nobody's holding the Rams accountable. If I would have seen the Rams after that loss at Tampa Bay just absolutely just livid and come out and be like, it will never happen again, we will fix it, we messed up, we did not play well. Instead, they wanted to give the cookie cutter answer that Sean McVay continues to give after every press conference that I am tired of hearing of, we just need to be better, we'll bounce back, no. You need to change something. You can't keep doing what you're doing and expect to win, because we are now at 3-3, guys. we don't want to lose any more games, because you know what? We should easily beat this Atlanta Falcons team next week, and I'm not so sure that we will. Because if we keep playing the way that we're playing, we're not going to win against Atlanta, and we're not going to win against a lot of other people. It's time for people to wake up. It's time to hold your team accountable. And it's something that I think that us Rams fans, we've been used to having the past couple years a really great team, and there hasn't been much that we've had to be mad about and call players out for. But we're there, so we need to do that. All the great franchises, it's not just us. If you were to see the Packers play terribly, the Giants, the Steelers, anybody, they'd be doing the same thing. And it's time that we step up. Obviously, us as fans can't do anything, but we can at least acknowledge that, something's got to give. Something's got to give, because the way that we've been playing, we'll lose every other game we play the rest of the season. I don't care. And we go out and we play the exact way that we played against the 49ers, we will lose every single game, because it's just not working, especially with this offensive line, with the way Jared Goff's been playing. Our linebacking core hasn't been great. Our defensive unit as a whole has been adequate, but we know that they can play better. They haven't even been playing that great. They've had good moments, but it's just time. I mean, and again, there's not one solution, unfortunately, to this, because there's a lot of holes. But you know what, Jake? The last thing I think that we should touch on is, we talk about playing this 49ers team who wasn't that great, but you know what they did a hell of a lot better than us was play calling.
Yeah.
What's with that? Because we can talk about this 49ers team and how, maybe they're not we don't necessarily think they're as talented as us, but whatever. But guess what? Their coaching was a hell of a lot better. They made the right calls. I mean, we didn't at all. I don't think there's one call in the entire game that I actually liked. I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, I think the first drive, obviously had some good things to look at. The second drive was good, and then after that, the wheels fell off, and that can't happen. Sean McVay is one of the best offensive minds in football, and he is just, I don't know what it is. I mean, he is just not. There are things that, and again, it falls on the fact there are things he did last year he's not doing this year. There are things Goff did last year he's not doing this year. I don't want this to come off as like we're bashing Goff the entire time, because the offensive line is still putrid. Okay, let's be real here. Andrew Whitworth, he is struggling. He is definitely going downhill as age obviously we knew was going to set in. It also hurts not playing next to a experienced veteran that he is familiar with in Roger Saffold. So I think that definitely hurts. I think Noteboom was showing progress. His injury it just sucks. There's no other word for me to say. I mean, it's awful. And then you put Jamil Demby in there, who I don't see starter quality. I see somebody that is going, he needs a long way to go, needs to be developed more. Brian Allen has not looked all that great to me. I wasn't a fan of him in the draft, and was, hopeful he would, show up this year. Hasn't happened. Austin Blythe looks ordinary, or, below that. And Rob Havenstein, the guy that they paid, he's regressing. And if you can't see that, I don't know what to tell you, because every single game he looks like he's getting worse. So here's the crazy thing. When the offensive line's bad, anytime it's bad, the offensive line coordinator or coach or whatever you want to call him gets, the stick, right? Well, the offensive line of the year award winners last year, coached by Aaron Kromer's still coaching this offensive line. He's coaching the same exact team, and this is the offensive line he's coaching. It has not been easy, okay? And I get he's not working with a ton of talent. I mean, you can kind of pin this on the fact that the Rams decided, hey, we're not going to go after somebody like an Elgton Jenkins. We're not going to go after a Dalton Reisner. We're not going to try to grab guys that could, we're not going to go after the same model that helped the Colts get back to the promised land, right? Because the Colts are now one of the best teams in the AFC, and because of that, it didn't just happen overnight, and now with Andrew Luck, it goes to show you, it's the offensive line. They got guys like Muhort. They got guys like Quentin Nelson, okay? And Quentin Nelson, I got news for you. is one of the fiercest guards in football. He has changed the culture on the offensive line. He is nasty. The Rams don't have that. Noteboom, to me, is a tackle. He has gotten better at guard, but he is the left tackle next year if I'm, setting the roster, right? I think he's the left tackle. But there are some other guys here that I'm interested in seeing, and one of them happens to be David Edwards. You see Noteboom, leave for the year. I don't know if I legitimately want to continue going on with this Jamil Demby project. I don't think it's working, and I'd like to see Edwards give it a shot. How much worse can it be, right? There's going to have to be reshuffling. You might even have to see Bobby Evans in there because whatever they're doing right now is not working. So, we talked about Goff, but here you are, guys. We're talking about the offensive line just like you want us to. Well, I've been asked by a lot of people, who the hell can we go out and grab? I'm glad you asked. I put together this long list of guys that are available, and I'm not going to tell you if they're good or not. I'm just going to give you the names because I can't go into all that. So here it is. You ready, Alexis?
Yep.
It's a doozy. My point is there's not a lot left, and guys that are bigger names you'll hear, they're more over the hill. So I don't know how much help that they would do. Anyway, Matt Khalil, TJ Lang, Andy Levitri, Max Unger, who retired, Josh Sitton, Jeremy Parnell, Ryan Schrader, John Sullivan, Brandon Fusco, Gary Gilliam, Russell Bodine, Matt Slauson, Chance Warmack, Joshua Garnett, Evan Smith, Brent Quavel, Byron Bell, Sean Lovawa, Vladimir Dukas, John Greco, former Ram, Jermon Bushrod, Earl Watford, Chris Clark, Austin Howard, Zane Beatles, Joe Barksdale, former Ram, Marcus Martin, Amini Silatulo, Austin Pastor, Josh Rebius, Wesley Johnson, Brian Witzman, Jonathan Cooper, Michael Ola, Luke Bowanko, Gino Gradkowski, John Ulrich John, Parker Anger, Corey Robinson, Chaz Green, James Ferentz, Reese Adiambo, Ari Kwanajo, Josh Walker, Jake Brendel, John Wetzel, Tyler Mars, Desmond Harrison, Nico Siragusa, Isaiah Battle, former Ram, Demetrius Rainey, former Ram, Don Barclay, Tony Adams, Haranis Grasu, Jeremiah Putasi, Hugh Thornton, and Adam Geddes. Who did I read off that you would actually be like, whoa, we should go out and get him?
Any of those guys would be better than what we're dealing with, literally.
My point is you put yourself in a position where you don't have depth like we talked about, and now you're probably going to have to go out and try and trade for somebody like Trent Williams. And oh, by the way, that idea I had earlier in the show, like a few shows ago, when I said, Forrest Lamp, yeah, guess what? Forrest Lamp, next man up. Now he's having to start for the LA Chargers. Before he was a backup, it would have been interesting to try and throw some picks at him because he's got a lot of talent, untapped potential, and, he's a backup, kind of fell out of favor. Well, now he's starting, so he's not even an option. So I think really the one guy that stands out to me, there's two guys. Ryan Schrader, he played right tackle in the Super Bowl. And how do you know this? You should know this because he played for the Falcons, who the Rams are playing this upcoming week. And by the way, when he got hurt and they put in Tom Compton, that's when the whole game changed. The Patriots sacked Matt Ryan so many times, and that's what happened. Another guy, Joshua Garnett. He's 25, and he was just with the 49ers. So, Joshua Garnett, 25, Stanford, former first-round pick. He's a guard. I really liked him in college. That's the one guy I think I would pick up right now. I think Garnett is better than any guard they have, not named Noteboom. Noteboom's hurt anyway. So I think Joshua Garnett would make sense. But, again, the problem is you're scraping free agency. I mean, I know people, and this is the thing. Because when you're looking at this, Alexis, people would be like, oh, Matt Khalil. Well, yeah, third overall pick, by the Vikings, I believe. It's like, he wasn't very good at any point in his career. He's a bust. Or, sorry, 4th overall pick. Max Unger, retired. How much are you going to throw at him to come out of retirement? Man, I'd consider it. And you have TJ Lang, who, again, was a stud, but now he's 32, and it looks like he's probably going to retire from the NFL. And then the other guy who used to play for Green Bay, Josh Sitton, 33, also probably going to retire from the NFL. So there you have it.
Yeah. I mean, I would be comfortable doing whatever, making a major change. I don't care anymore. I just think that we are at the bottom of the offensive line. We are desperate. I don't think it would hurt to bring in somebody else, maybe, switch things up, give it a try. It's certainly not going to hurt. I just think I'm over it. I'm just over it. I'm over screaming about the offensive line since week 1 of the preseason. I'm sure you are too. I'm sure everybody who listens to this podcast is tired of hearing it as well. I think Rams fans as a whole are not happy, and we shouldn't be. I'm not going to, sit here and tell people who are pissed off that your anger is unwarranted and that you should be optimistic and all that, because, you can always find certain things to be optimistic about. But if you're looking at this from a realistic perspective, guys, you should be very disappointed. And I say that, listen, if we were a team with no talent, if we were the Miami Dolphins and we were just taking a beating week after week and there was nothing that we could really do to fix it, because, if a guy doesn't have talent, you're not going to just make him talented in a season. It'd be a different story. But the problem is we are talented, which is why it's concerning, and which is why everybody should be very upset, because we have very talented players right now who are running out there right now and are on the field looking like they don't know what the hell they're doing. And it's just really disheartening. But I think that if there's someone on that team and, you could think of who you want it to be is going to, needs to step up. And people need to start being held accountable. Sean McVay needs to rework a few things. He needs to, be creative again and try and add some life into this offense that has zero life right now. And they need to figure it out. I'm not saying they will. I'm not saying they won't, but that's just what they need to do. And it's up to them to do it. There's nothing that we can do about it as fans other than hope that they get it together. And so just to close out, I want to read a few things from the Instagram, because we did have a large angry response on our Instagram after the game. But Jake, I wanted to read a few comments here that people commented on our Instagram, because, and just for us to comment on it, because some of these are good and other people might find this interesting. So here's a comment from, I'm just going to spell it out. CHRGON 98 on Instagram. And this is what his take on the game was. He said, Goff has very little pocket presence. Goff looks like he has his mind made up on who he is throwing it to before the snap, even if they are covered. Offensive line is getting bullied. Allen is feisty, but gets overpowered too often. Demby is explicitive. Predictable play calling. Defense plays way too soft on third downs. Offensive play calling as a whole is way too predictable, and defensively we look good on first and second down, but for whatever stupid reason decide to play a soft zone on third downs. This team needs someone to step up and take lead. Goff just sits there and takes it and doesn't say a word. He needs to speak up and start motivating his offense, or we are going to be having a long year. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I it's not anything I haven't heard before. I agree, with some of it. I'll never describe a player on the podcast with an expletive, but again, there's so much that needs to be said. I think I disagree with the defense, because when you are talking about the soft zone, keep in mind the defense doesn't call their own plays. Wade Phillips calls the plays. So if Wade Phillips has them, playing, soft zone coverage, that's what they're going to play. I think the defense is very impressive at times. Despite, honestly, let's be real here. How much pass rush did they get, between the fact that they were going up against 2 backup tackles? I mean, not a lot, right? So you saw the linebackers, the inside backers come up and make plays. You saw, the secondary. It looks like Talib is going to be out for quite some time. He hits IR with a rib injury, so it was really good to see Troy Hill. Looked like it was like leaps and bounds from 2018. Troy Hill looks a lot better, a lot quicker, a lot more decisive, a lot more confident. And I noticed that Nickel Ruby-Coleman, of course, looks great. Marcus Peters looks really good, too, I think. John Johnson, I'm a little worried about that shoulder. He's getting a second opinion. Hopefully it's not anything serious. If it is, then Taylor Rapp is going to end up being your starter next to Eric Weddle. And, man, so it looks like the Rams really dodged some injuries last year. This year, they are not doing that. Noteboom out for the year, Talib on IR, Johnson seeking second opinion, and I believe Malcolm Brown even got hurt in this game. Todd Gurley's likely going to be back next week. From how it sounds, they're hopeful that he'll be back. And McVay, this is an interesting one. Our friend JB Long did mention on Twitter earlier today. McVay is leaving the door open for rookie David Edwards to join the starting lineup. He has not committed to Demby taking over week 7. Also mentioned looking externally for offensive line depth. He did say he kind of did stomp down the idea of trading for a Trent Williams because it did seem like they wanted to stay in-house for the starting lineup. But as far as depth, I mean, you would have to really how this is going to go, guys, is the Rams are going to bring in a bunch of offensive linemen and they're going to have, a giant, workout, right? And then they're going to pick the best guys out of that, and then they're probably going to sign them. Real quick, Nasimba Webster, who you guys love, and you were bummed to see him cut because John Kelly was promoted to the active roster. Nasimba Webster was added back onto the practice squad. Kind of goes to show you how you do have to keep somebody like that on the 53-man roster due to just the buzz that he generates during a lesser time in the preseason, because now no teams are remembering what Nasimba did in the preseason, coming into week 7. So it was a smart move by the Rams. They kept him on long enough, and then they took John Kelly off the practice squad, and they were able to add him. So I like the move, and glad he's still a Ram, and I think that's pretty much it. We got obviously a lot going for us this week, just the podcast in general. Alexis, you can say whatever you want or as little as you want about that, but yeah, that's pretty much it, guys.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, there's a ton of comments on there, but there's, again, all of them are about the offensive line typically, but an interesting, something to look out for, Juan Robles, I did maybe mispronounce that last name, brought up the idea of signing back John Sullivan and moving Blythe to left guard. That's something that I wouldn't be too mad to see happen. And again, a lot of just on Sean McVay's play calling, and stuff like that, we just have to see how they play against the Falcons. We will be hoping for the best. That's really all that we can do. And yeah, I mean, like I said, right, every week I feel like I'm saying, well, guys, if they play bad the next game, and they have, so I'm not going to say it this time. I'm just going to say we're just going to go watch the game against the Falcons and, hope that they take the necessary steps to get better this week.
Yeah, maybe this offense needs to, go back to playing on turf. Who knows? I'm down
maybe
for anything to wake this offense up. But that's going to do it. If you like what you hear, as always, be sure to subscribe and review wherever you get your podcasts. And for Alexis Craft, at the Alexis Craft on Twitter. And for me, Jake Ellenbogen, at JKBogenDTR on Twitter. We thank you for tuning in. It's been rough. Hope we were here for you, helped you out a little bit, because no loss is easy, but this one definitely wasn't. Until next time, guys, take care.